Hello, all. Binks here. Super excited to check out and talk about the brand new patch with the new balance updates. As this is my extra channel, so you might notice down below it's not Binks, it's Binks Extra. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. I post VODs, lots of cool stuff, and extra stuff like this talking about these patch notes. So really excited. I think the meta has gotten a little bit stale for some people, especially with just kind of like Brood Absman and everything like that. So really excited to see what they are making some changes to. We have another handful of card updates with this patch. We also wanted to clarify expectations around patch changes to cards. The goal on patch day is to make adjustments we can't make via OTA. That often includes changes with balance impacts, that just as often includes interesting changes we want to try out. When they intersect, such as last patch's Spider-Man update, that's great too. Our OTA releases remain our priority tool for balance. We lock patch changes to cards at least 2 OTAs ahead of the patch release. This gives us the most flexibility to react as fresh as possible for all of you. So let's talk about some of these. The first one is to Blade, which I really love, and I think that a lot of people will really like. Blade, old, on reveal, discard a card from your hand. New, on reveal, discard the rightmost card from your hand. So a lot of times in just Marvel Snap and in any card game, discarding cards generally feels bad. Targeted discards feel good. So like things like Howling Wing or Silver Samurai tend to feel pretty good because you can kind of mitigate some risk by discarding certain cards in your hands, or even MODOK because you know you're discarding your whole hand. Whereas things where you're just discarding random cards can feel pretty bad for you and your opponent. But when it's you have some agency over when to play it, you could feel rewarded for waiting and different things like that, and you're less reliant on RNG, which is really cool. So developer note, a solid card in early discard strategies. Blade had dropped off in both popularity and win percentage. We examine weaker cards that could use a little love. We also think about ways that we can give a little push to some discard synergies like Hela, Ghost Rider Swarm, and of course Apocalypse. As Blade is a card players acquire early on, a change accomplishing both these goals needed to be clean and simple. We think this fits the bill. Might not be enough to breathe new life into the Daywalker, but we'd like to find opportunities for small changes with the potential to make some interesting waves. I could see Blade getting really strong here. I mean, like with Swarm always ends up on the right side of your hand. If you play like Howling Wing and then like Blade, you'll guarantee to get multiple discards of Swarm. So maybe some kind of like early aggressive strategy that just only uses like Blade, Howling Wing, Swarm could be really, really cool. And just in general, it's now a much more like wanted card in any of these discard strategies because the randomness is gone. Very exciting. Soulstone, interesting one here. Removing the draw. So it used to be on reveal, draw card, ongoing enemy cards here -1 power. New ongoing enemy cards here have -1 power. So we lose the draw. This is huge for Thanos. A big thing about Thanos is that while you're adding these additional cards to your deck, you're also able to draw cards throughout the game, and going from 5 of the stones being able to draw to 4 stones is pretty darn important when your deck really unlocks when drawing stones early. So if you get like Mind Stone on 1, then that opens up because almost you're guaranteed to have another draw card get added to your hand if you play Mind Stone, because Power Stone was the only one that didn't draw a card. Now you could get Power Stone, Soul Stone. You really just kind of slow down your engine. So I think this is pretty darn impactful for Thanos. Thanos is in a pretty middling spot right now, so kind of surprising. Maybe something in the data, at least, you know, when they made this change, showed that Thanos was like really underrated in certain buckets. So maybe they're just trying to do this, and maybe it's just for like the long term, right? Because Thanos is just a very, very powerful card, and they have to make balance changes and bring new cards into the table and think about Thanos a lot. So maybe they just wanted to lower the power slightly of Thanos to give them some more design space. Kind of interesting. I think it does hurt Thanos a lot. Losing a card draw on that deck is very big, so I think Thanos takes a pretty darn big hit here. Spider-Ham, old 2/2 on reveal, transform the highest cost card in your opponent's hand into a pig. New, on reveal, transform the leftmost card in your opponent's hand into a pig. Oof. Man, this one hurts. This one hurts a lot. To mention the OTA, we adjusted the Spider-Ham from 1/1 to 2/2. We weren't happy with how damaging the effect was for our new, cooler 6-cost cards, especially APOC. However, we like that Spider-Man hit a solid sweet spot of disruption without fully denying you the card. Even had some risk due to Destroyer and Infinite. This change aims to retain these positive elements without applying the exclusively to higher cost cards. Also makes the effect a lot easier to play around if you expect Peter Porker, or if you're playing in Conquest, obviously. This trigger will hit a 6-cost card slightly more often as they tend to migrate to the leftmost card. So it will, in general, hit a higher cost card because those do end up going, and you play your leftmost cards that are smaller, and then the cards trickle over to the left. But it does dodge things like APOC, just like they say here. APOC is going to hide Sleithy on the right if you did discard him. Man, Spider-Ham's in a rough spot. Spider-Ham is a very good card. It was probably underplayed at this point. And it probably has been picking up a lot of momentum with Doom coming into the meta a lot more. So this now not being able to target Doom is pretty bad. Sometimes it's going to feel pretty good if you just hit a good left side card, but sometimes it's just really gonna whiff. Spider-Ham takes a pretty big hit here, which again is surprising. Like a card that's doesn't seem to be like played that much, but being played, I guess, just enough for them to want to get rid of it. Big hit to Spider-Ham. Probably going to see a lot less play, but maybe feels a little bit less bad, just like they said. You know, like I mentioned before, having agency over things like that. So if you're playing Conquest, you know your opponent has Spider-Ham, you can then kind of manage your hand and try and push a card that's good to get Spider-Ham on the left side. But I don't know if it's going to get played nearly as much in Conquest. There's an absolute Conquest superstar that probably gets a big knockdown. Now this... Chat's not here. I don't know. YouTube commenters. This is the craziest change. Snow Guard. Look at how much text is over here. So what Snow Guard used to be, it's a 1/2 that while it's in your hand, it swaps between Hawk form and Bear form. Hawk form ignored all abilities next turn. Bear form triggers the effect of this location. So you wouldn't really have agency over when you'd be able to play either of those cards. They'd flop back and forth based on when you drew the card. And it just felt bad, like no one was playing it. It was one of the most underplayed cards. It's I think Series 4 or Series 5 card. Not that great. But now the card is insane. So the new card is a 1/2 that says, on reveal, add the Hawk and Bear auras to your hand. So it's a 1/2 that adds 2 cards to your hand. It is a 1/2 that adds 2 cards to your hand. If that was it, and the cards that you added to your hand were rocks, this card might see play. Okay, this sounds so stupid. If the card was a 1/2 that just added 2 cards to your hand and they were both rocks, there's a world where this card still sees play because Collector and Dinosaur are too good. But you're getting 2/3s premium set of 2-drops with very unique and very interesting game-changing effects. On reveal, ignore all location abilities until the end of next turn or the game. So they actually improved Hawk to have better interactions with Limbo, to just work a little bit better, just kind of adding until the end of the game. So like, you know, there used to be things where like, you turn off a location, but then the game would end and then it would flip back on and then it wouldn't feel great. But now if you turn off Onslaught Citadel and your opponent is playing like Blue Marvel there, it shuts it off until the end of the game. But ignore all abilities until the end of next turn or the game. Maybe it's not. I guess we'll have to see. We'll have to see in practice, right? But it does have some changes with Limbo and some other things like that. I guess we'll see. I don't know. The Hawk, that seems kind of interesting. But I know that, I guess the idea of it was to make it see more play. Let's read the developer notes. What do they tell us? Feels like every patch includes this one wacky, unexpected card change today. So here's the one for today. Snow Guard has turned out to be a largely unsatisfying card for players, posting poor stats in both popularity and actual wins. Our goal for Snow Guard was to create a unique novel tool for hot and featured locations. Might also see some play in Conquest decks. Looking surprised the enemy, but we fell short. In revising the design, we aim to make her stronger. Grant both Hawk and Bear as more total power and curve. Decrease the variance around whether either is useful. Give her deck building identity. Few decks already care about adding materials from outside your starting deck to your hand. So insane abilities with Quinjet. You get 2/13s if you have Quinjet out. Insane with Collector, insane with Dinosaur, super good. Reduce confusion, results weren't matching intuition around Hawk, so we extended the window to start after it resolves. We also added text clarifying the effect won't last through the end of game. So, okay, so it won't do the final turn thing that I was talking about, but it does turn off Limbo if you play it on the final turn is one thing that I know. If possible, let her variant stay in place, leading to summoning instead of transforming. So like, yeah, you'd get a Snow Guard variant, but then it would go into your hand and then immediately disappear. Now you actually play the Snow Guard and the variants get to play. This is so cool. This card is cracked. Snow Guard is insane. Snow Guard is so strong. I can't overstate this. If the cards were just 2/3s that had no abilities, it'd be like a Sentinel, but way better. But it's a 1/2 that adds 2/3s that you could play on the same turn. And they have really unique, interesting abilities that can mess some things up. This card is crazy. It becomes one of the best, legitimately one of the best 1-drops in the game. Super cool, super unique card. It's going to feel like playing a completely different card, which is super cool. And finally, Absman, RIP Broomwave. At least Broomwave Cerebro 5. Broomwave still might be really good, man. I mean, I think Forge Brewed Absman, even if it's a 4-4, is still pretty strong. So old 4-5, now a 4-4. So it was a 4-3, went up to a 4-5, which was crazy. Back down to a 4-4. What is this, an OTA patch? After last week's balance updates, we were locked out before they went live. We saw a huge surge in the strengths and popularity of decks based on Forge Brewed Absman curve. Insane, the best curve in Marvel Snap. We knew the changes weakened other top decks. New Kid already becoming a big deal in Ranked and Conquest. We're often happy to let things breathe for a minute, but they didn't want to let it get dull. This is really cool. Love seeing that they're being really proactive, saying like, hey, we know that this is really strong. We're going to let it ride through the last OTA. And then, you know, they ended up making that change here. So it's cool. Interesting. I think going to 4-4 still makes Forge Brewed Absman is really good. It probably kills the C5 version of the deck, which sucks because I'm having so much fun with Broomwave C5. So get... you know, unfortunately, Broomwave C5 is gone, but I think that Broomwave is still incredibly powerful, and you'll still see it a lot. So Absorbing Man goes down from being a busted card to a very strong card, and I think 4-4 is where they should keep it, because I think 4-4 it'll still be very good, but awesome. So what are we at? 11 minutes here? Awesome. Thank you so much for listening to these patch notes. Once again, this is Big Section, not Binks. Make sure to subscribe down below. Subscribe down below and like the video and do other stuff like that. And okay, bye, and we'll see you really soon. Enjoy the patch. All right, goodbye. Make sure to subscribe. Watch that one too.